And we are indeed live. Hello. Hello, YouTube. I am here with, well, my name is Christy Abbey. I have never hosted a hangout before, so I'm going to just pretend I know what I'm doing from being on other people's. And with me is just Maddie, who is...
That's me.
Just Maddie.
I'm here, yes, from the Objectively Subjective channel, and I am honored that this is your first hangout, so that you've hosted. So thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. We've been going through a lot of the same stuff lately in the background with the complete disintegration of the community of atheists, and I know that was a big reason why you stopped the Godless Iowan channel.
Yeah.
I know you've gone through the story a cajillion times, but tell us a little bit about it, if you can.
Well, basically for me, it started actually almost a year ago now. Another channel started hosting faux debates. They weren't really debates, with things like incels and vicious men's rights activists. And I was just like, this is all that's happening, or these people are getting to come on your channel and spread their ideas. Like it's not, you're not actually defeating anything here. That went on for a while. Then we got to December and January, and that same channel started hosting white nationalists and outright Nazis who were also sexually abusive and to their partners, who were very severely autistic. And it was just that was the point that I said, I'm basically done with this community. But then I woke up on the day that Rationalityrules released his transphobic, bigoted piece of shit video. And I walked into the living room, I picked up my computer, and I started a new channel. I was just, I'm done. I do not want to be associated with this.
One of the things that I'd been planning for a while to come back, and I had started writing scripts and just little skits and stuff. I have a couple from last year, but now that I'm, a year out trans, and I'd wanted to come back, and then the Rationalityrules thing happened, and oh my God, I got dumped on. Before I started getting dumped on, I happened to be on Facebook on the Atheist Community of Austin page when that hit. And all of a sudden, all sorts of things that they wouldn't have allowed before were just dumping all over. And I got a message from one of the mods saying, I'm the last mod remaining. I'm leaving now.
Yeah.
This isn't safe anymore.
No, and if you go to the ACA pages, they're just garbage now. They're filled with bigotry because they've basically given up on holding up their mission statement and being protective towards marginalized groups. They just allow basically anything. And yeah, so that was a whole other situation. But yeah, it's major blow up.
Yeah, I'm not. I actually didn't know how to handle that, because I'd left under not great circumstances the first time, about 8 years ago, 8 years ago, somewhere in there. I don't remember. A friend of mine killed herself, and I'd been posting videos to her to try and talk her through everything. Weirdly enough, my last one is a comedy one, just to try several months after that particular incident. But I've been wanting to come back all this time because I got a lot to say, and everybody in the house has stopped listening to me. So I figured send it to the ether. Well, I am bouncing my computer. I better like stop doing.
That's okay. I used to do that all the time. I would rest my arms on my desk, and I had to break myself of that.
Well, I don't know. One of the things that I have found, which has been nice, has been that there has been a bit of community that managed to break away from the original and have a more progressive and keep to the ACA's mission statement without being part of any particular official group. And I'm trying to figure out why this is bouncing so much. Give me 1 second. Talk so I can do this.
Well, I was going to say the volunteers that left the ACA started up a group called the Progressive Secular Alliance, and I was one of the first members there. It's a great group. It's actually now open to members. It's a closed group, so you have to request an invite, and you have to answer a couple questions. But it's an inclusive group. It's a great group. I recommend it.
I was actually really happy to be asked to be in it. Me and Rhetoric and Discourse. I don't know what his real name is, so I don't know how to talk to him.
Rhetoric and Discourse. Now it's lost. This is horrible. He only lives like 200 miles away from me, and we've talked about meeting up. And I want to say it's Chris. I think maybe, but I can't think. I'm not sure. Right now, my mind is just a blank.
Well, it was really nice finding him because on his weekly hangout, there hasn't been a week that goes by that he hasn't said something about the trans rights problems in the atheist community. And
yeah, he was one of the few that really spoke out right at the beginning. Him, Godless Cranium, Essence of Thought, and myself, which was one of the depressing situations because we were all told to have patience and that the apology video was coming, and then it didn't come. And many of those same people that said to have patience said if the apology video didn't actually come, or if it wasn't a real apology, that they would surely be there to make a response. And
yeah.
None of that happened.
Well, there's been scattered responses. Cirrus did something eventually.
Yeah. Cirrus took it in the direction of the issue was actually about women's sports when it wasn't. It was about promoting bigotry in a way that society deems as acceptable.
Yeah.
Same thing with the bathroom laws. It was never about protecting women in bathrooms. It was just about finding a way to push your bigotry that you thought was acceptable, and it didn't work there. It's not going to work in sports. Sports have been absolutely fine for the last decade and a half with trans women athletes and trans men athletes, and nothing has happened. Like it's fine.
Well, one of the things I keep I used to have this long thing that I'd respond to people if they started hitting me on this, and then I finally said, wait a second, the easiest thing to do is just ask, how long have you been interested in women's sports?
Yeah, none of these people watch women's sports. Rationality rules, no plum. They don't give a crap about women's sports. I mean, maybe I'll give that they've once sat down and watched women's volleyball, but that's about as close to women's sports as they're ever getting to it.
I watched cycling. I will admit, and I was a huge fan of Rachel McKinnon, Dr. Rachel McKinnon, and when all of this broke, I did reach out to her, and she was incredibly nice about to talk to me about what was going on a little bit.
Awesome.
because it reached her, even though there was no particular reason it should have. But
well, I mean, it went wide. It hit the Majority Report. They spoke about it a little bit, but yeah.
oh, I must have missed a lot of the drama then. Holy shit!
Yeah, it went pretty far, and I mean, it turned the atheist community of Austin into a chud zone. So I mean,
well, it's a matocracy.
oh yeah, the Dillahunty experience. That's all it is.
Pretty much. Yeah. Matt's done a lot of crappy things over the years, and I've kind of like let it go and said, all right, well, okay, he made mistakes, and he just finally hit the dead to me zone recently.
See, I mean, like the biggest issue that I've had with communities in general is they act exactly like churches. If something happened in your church, you protected the church. You didn't want to get it outside of the church walls. You didn't want the general public to know the wickedness that was going on inside your church. So you protected and you defended and you made excuses. And that's exactly what happened with this situation.
Yeah.
Protect the community. And I have said many times, if a theist had made the exact same video as Rationality Rules, because a theist could, that video had nothing to do with atheism. A theist could have made the exact same video with the exact same words, and there would be hundreds of response videos by now by pretty much every atheist content creator out there today.
I don't disagree with you at all.
And if we're going to hold theists to a standard like that, then we better be holding the people in our own community to the same standards.
The question is, how do we do that? And the only thing I was able to figure out was to get over my fear of coming back, because honestly, that made me afraid to come back as an out trans person, and finally get back on the air with whatever I had sitting there at the time.
Well, that was one. Okay, so one of the major reasons why I decided to completely reset was there were already, like, the second that Rationality Rules thing went, there were people in the trans community saying the atheist community is no longer safe for us. This is how they're going to handle this. And people felt unsafe. They didn't know what channels were okay, what channels weren't. They saw all of these atheist content creators saying, oh, have patience, and tone policing the trans people who were actually speaking out. And that was done. So I wanted to create a space where people could feel comfortable and that they could look and see that, you know, you can create a channel outside of the community. I'm still 100% an atheist. Like, I didn't get God over this situation, but I'm not going to be associated with any community. Now I'm associated with content creators like Essence of Thought and Godless Cranium, Rhetoric and Discourse, your channel, the hosts on my channel, all great people. But like, my thing is, you better be a humanist first, atheist second, for me to really want to work with you or collab with you.
That's, yeah, my one of my favorite people in the general world is she's pagan and she's a humanist first, and that's the part I want. That's the part I care about. And I have an ex-girlfriend who was Catholic, for gosh sakes.
Well, Yeah, no, I was going to say I have a large group of polytheists. I have liberal Christians, people who are, what do they call them? I can't think of the name. Some spiritualists, but like Buddhists. I have a lot of Buddhists that
There we go.
subscribe to not spiritualists, Buddhists that subscribe to my channel. And like, if they're humanists, I don't have a problem with them. Like, if they're not trying to force people to convert to their faith, then they're not causing the harm that I see. And by force, I mean they're not forcing their kids. Like, a lot of polytheists don't force their kids to believe. I'm not an anti-theist anymore. I was, but I was always an anti-theist by the definition of being against the harm. And yet I saw a lot of anti-theists going out of their way to attack the people and not necessarily the harm.
I think that's always been one of my problems as well. When I left, it was just when the Rebecca Watson thing happened, and the where she said, well, maybe don't hit on somebody at 2 o'clock in the morning in an elevator in at a convention. And the atheist community lost its shit, because of course they did, because a woman said, hey, maybe I should have some rights.
Right. Like, I went back and I have a video on my channel with the Omniscient Skeptic going through the various splits, like Atheism Plus. And every single time a massive split happens, it's because feminists or humanist creators basically just say, you shouldn't be shitty people.
Yeah.
And all the people are like, why can't we be shitty?
Well, yeah, they left religion in order to be shitty. No, that's exactly what the religious people are telling us we did, because we just want to sin. No, I actually wanted to be a better person. And I didn't think that was the way to do it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's and it was confusing right when the anti-feminist started. I mean, thankfully, one of the anti-feminists from the day is now the queen of all she surveys in the leftist community, which is cool, and we'll leave it there. Everybody can figure out who that is easily, I think. But I was always, aren't we supposed to be the better for not having the religion, not having the dogma, not having the harm? Aren't we supposed to like actually make some kind of morality instead of just saying morality is optional?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, when you leave the faith, you're faced with, so what do I actually believe? And I think it's a progressive thing. You're going to grow. You're going to change as you go throughout this. You're not going to instantly go from being being a right-wing bigoted minister like I was at one point to liberal, progressive, non-binary atheist content creator overnight. It just doesn't happen. It took a lot of time. There were a lot of stages throughout this process. I didn't actually get onto YouTube until towards the end of my transformation process, from getting rid of all of that I had grown up with, and realizing that there was a wider world and people weren't evil just because they didn't follow a book.
Well, you were IFB, right?
No, I was Pentecostal. I was
okay.
I was Assemblies of God growing up, but I was a non-denominational Pentecostal minister.
What did turn you? I actually haven't heard this story, so.
So I mean, it's really kind of a dark situation. You've already spoken of a friend that took their life. I was a minister. My cousin started coming to my church, and one Sunday, my cousin came up to the front at the end of the altar call, asked to be saved. I prayed over him. He was saved. He was happy. He was so joyous. And 2 weeks later on Thanksgiving, he shot his face off with a shotgun. And I was the minister. I was like, the next Sunday, his whole family came into the area for his funeral, and I was scheduled to preach that Sunday. So I had to give this inspirational kind of almost like a funeral, but it was a Sunday service. And I walked into the church, and the first thing I heard out of someone's mouth was, "Isn't it so sad that he's now in hell because he took his life?" And like a switch happened in my brain. I basically sat in a pew during the whole service. I don't remember anything about the service. I got up to give my sermon, and the first words out of my mouth were, "A God that would send someone as tortured as my cousin to hell is not a God that I could worship or believe in." And like at the time, that wasn't the moment that I became an atheist. That was when the doubts really started. But the people in the church were, I think they just thought I was really grief-stricken because no one really mentioned anything about it. But that was the starting point.
It's actually kind of strange because it's not entirely far off from where I was, except I was never the preacher. I'm not the off the cuff talker, really. So,
yeah.
But I had a friend who died in the second wave of AIDS. And his cousin did the funeral, and one of the things, the sermon was about how it was a good thing that my friend was going to hell. And that's when my doubts started too. And it was like, got intensely drunk that night with my another friend of mine, and just I started saying, "Is this really what's going on?"
And it's just brutal and disgusting, and it hurts so much when you go through that, because then you don't have anywhere to turn to. Like, you can't turn to the church because the church is the one that just basically destroyed you.
Yeah.
And it's just, yeah, I mean, it was, I'm sorry to hear about your friend, and that funeral was like that.
I'm sorry to hear about yours. I mean, that's what I'm saying. We have something in common a little bit there.
Well, on top of my cousin, it was so horrific. I mentioned them talking about him going to hell, but the others were saying, well, they were, oh, it's hard for me to even say it. And I
if you don't want to, that's
well,
fine.
no.
I'm not
So some of my family were overjoyed that from the moment of him blowing the complete front of his face off to him actually being declared dead was 12 hours. And some of the people in the family were overjoyed because that was 12 hours that he could have given his heart to God.
Oh, dear.
And that as well, just, it made me so sick. And it really set with me. And from that point on, it was just, it wasn't the same. Like, I was still a minister for several more years. I still technically believe for at least 2 more years after that, but like my faith completely started changing. I went from being very fundamentalist Pentecostal to almost a Lutheran style of minister. I was still at the same church, but I stopped talking about like the Holy Spirit and the baptism of the Holy Spirit, and stopped speaking in tongues. I started teaching like against faith healing, and by the end of it, I was teaching pretty much straight philosophy. I would give a scripture so people would think that I had taught something from the Bible, and I would teach something on like the essence of justice or truth or morality, and go from like Plato or Aristotle.
Well, that's one way to do it. I mean, that's
and what shows you how much people actually put into this, almost no one in my church recognized a difference. Like towards the end of my ministry, when I was no longer teaching biblical things, I was teaching just basically secular humanistic things. I was getting told that I was the best minister they had ever heard, that they could really feel the power of the Holy Spirit in me, and just so strange.
I know a lot of atheists say it's a big con, but I get the idea of the comfort and such. I mean, that was it just is for a lot of people. It's a lot of people just don't have any place else to turn.
That's the situation that I found myself in, I think is where you do get cons, because once like most ministers out there that are preaching, they really believe what they're preaching.
Yeah.
But if you go through a situation like I did, I like right at the very end of my ministry, I was like, I can either leave or I can go on to be really super famous through this, because I know it's all an act. And my, like, I couldn't do that. Like, there was no way. I had to get out.
Sort of the Uri Geller of ministers.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, there's a lot of them out there. Like, I don't think Benny Hinn believes a word that he says. Like, no. I think that is all a con. But yeah.
Most of the people I've met who are religious believe what they're talking about, but a lot of them also don't know what they're talking about, which is a bit of a problem in that area too.
Well, that's like most of Pentecostal beliefs are extra biblical, but pretty much everybody in Pentecostalism thinks that all of it comes from the Bible, but it doesn't.
No. Yeah. So when you came out of it, how did you broadcast to the world that you were an atheist, or did that come later?
Well, the first time was my ex-wife. Basically, I told her I quit the ministry saying I needed a sabbatical because I felt God was taking me in another direction. And then in conversation with my wasn't my ex at the time, but my now ex-wife, I told her that I just don't believe it anymore. And the next week she went to the church and told everyone that I was an atheist, that I was a devil worshiper.
Yes, because those two actually are compatible on some.
Oh yeah.
On some, because words don't mean anything.
So I mean, I got outed as an atheist in my own local area right away. Online, I mean, I had a Facebook, and I was an angry atheist for about 2 years. And I try to tell people, especially people that just come out of faith, they have a lot of built up anger. A lot of them
Yeah.
do. And so you got to kind of give people some leeway when they're just deconverting. But if that doesn't go away after a couple years, then they're probably going to become very famous on YouTube, I guess. I don't like, that's what it seems.
and be milkshaked in public frequently.
Yes.
Well, that is one of I admitted to myself that I was an atheist, believe it or not, on my very first YouTube video on my old channel, because I'm one of those people who leaps, and I leap in public because that's how I've always been. I've always been a very public person, and I also didn't know where else to go, because until Dawkins, I didn't even know there was atheist was an option.
Yeah.
I knew it existed. I didn't know it was an option. I would have taken it earlier. But,
so, like, for me, I had the angry atheist period. Then I started getting out of that, and Mrs. Snarky said, "You have a wonderful story that you can share, so you should start a YouTube channel." And I said, "I'm not going to start a YouTube channel." I started a blog, and I wrote a blog for almost a year, I think. And a lot of people directed me to the Clergy Project, so I joined the Clergy Project. I was with them for nearly a year. I did some work for them in some of their application processes and stuff like that, admitting new members. But then I got to where, Facebook cracked down big time on sharing of blogs. Like, a lot of groups started removing that. And one day I found myself blocked from two of the largest atheist groups on Facebook that had blogs shared out the wazoo for a while. One was even a blogging website, but then they said, well, you can't share your own content anymore. It was like, okay. And the views for my blog went from, I think at one point it was almost 3,000 a day to nothing.
Oh, dear.
So I got really depressed for a bit. It was like, well, I did all this work for nothing. Why did I do this? And Snarky started pushing me to do YouTube again. And I saw a couple YouTube content creators, and I thought, yeah, I can probably do this. And so I gave it a try, and now I'm addicted.
Yeah, once you start, you can. I always wanted to come back. But I had other things to take care of first, like, coming out trans and all of that. Yeah. How did you, or when did you come out trans?
That was so it was when Mr. Atheist and Luxander released a video on labels, and I watched that, and I was like, well, holy crap, gender fluid, non-binary sounds a whole lot like how I feel and have felt my entire life. So I started looking into it and started asking a lot of questions. I probably talked Luxander and Peter/Ethel's ear off for several conversations, and realized it. And I was like, okay, like, it's something that, like I said, I was a fundamentalist Pentecostal minister. I never expected that in my mid-30s I would be questioning my gender. And so, yeah, came out. had a stream that's on my new channel. I moved it over to my new channel with Luxander, about being non-binary. And so, I mean, it was the end of last year when we had the actual stream and I came out.
Wow. See, these are things that I've watched most of your content, but a lot of your content has disappeared.
Oh yeah. Well, a lot of like some of the interviews are going to be moved over. I've moved over quite a bit of content, mostly the response videos, and some interviews won't make it to the new channel. But
well, what I knew you from was Twitter primarily.
yeah.
Because you actually helped me out a lot last year. That's one of the things. I actually want to thank you in public on camera for helping me out last year.
No problem.
When I was really I had no idea where I was going. I did not know it was going to be into a dress. Well, I kind of did.
Well, I'm glad I can help you out. That means a lot to me.
It's so your ministry isn't done. It's just a humanist ministry, as it were.
Yeah, and I've kind of mentioned that, like a lot of people in the clergy project, they're faced with this thing. They get into there. They go, I don't believe in God anymore, but I still feel like I'm supposed to be a minister. And I said, well, see, the church does this. They raise up kids. They find kids that exhibit that they want to help people, that they really want to do something, and then they push them towards the ministry. And so, yeah, you want to help people because that's just the kind of person you are. And you know, you can minister to people, because ministry is just a helping thing. It's not actually preaching. Like there's a difference between preaching and ministry. So yeah, a lot of people that find themselves in the clergy project go on to work with charities and do a lot of really good things.
I did have the good luck of meeting the person who started the clergy project in person, and we had a very nice talk way back when I was still angry, and he was trying to talk me out of being angry.
Yeah. I mean, like once you get past the anger, you can really get to what you want to do with the rest of your life. And I think that like a lot of times we get hooked on the anger. We like we don't like being angry, but at the same time, it's a norm. Like we have that, and keeping a hold of it is nice from time to time. Like we never admit that we like being angry, but people like being angry.
I kind of like the label of angry atheist every so once in a while, because you know there are times. This is I was trying to guide it so that we circle back around to what happened a few months ago.
Oh. Well, I mean, yeah, there's times where being angry is definitely called for. Like there are times where I'm on Twitter and I just see a post and it just sits this little snap in my head that I'm like, oh, I am going to just lose it on this person.
It's totally oh no, you didn't.
No. Oh, but yeah, the anger when it came to the attacks on the trans community were definitely called for. So the whole argument is ridiculous by itself. If you look at it as trans people are a tiny minority of the population,
right,
and then you take trans people who are good at sports, that's an even smaller minority of the population.
Yeah.
And then you got to split that in half, because there's going to be women and men in that group, so they're not all going into one sport. So they're even split down even farther. So there's no way they're going to take over sports. That's just the most ridiculous talking point of any. It's worse than things that Seitin Bruggencake says. It's just, it's so bad.
I was, one of the thoughts I had was, well, okay, I suppose all trans people automatically go into softball and rowing, and we're going to just dominate all of that way.
Or like scouts are going to colleges and walking up to the captain of the football team and going, I tell you what, you're never going to make it in the NFL, but if you just let us lop off your penis and put you on some hormones, we can get you into the women's league. And all kinds of people are just lining up going, yes, this is my dream.
Oh no, I think you broke Christy.
It's ridiculous. It's such a ridiculous thing that there's no way this is going on.
No, it isn't. And I am pretty much living proof that trans people and sports don't go together all the time.
Yeah, no, I have
lucky I can walk across the room,
I'm the same way. I can't play tag, okay? I fail at tag, so there's no athletic ability here at all. I am not taking anyone's job.
No. On the other hand, everybody use that as an excuse. One of the things that's really bothered me, since I did wind it back here, and you mentioned Peter Ethel, Essence of Thought, and we should mention Edita too, because they do work together. Everybody on the one side seem to blame them for drama instead of, okay, I'm defending the other side. Pay attention. The only person with enough reach, aside from the Queen, who really could speak out and be heard. Right. The rest of us weren't being heard at all.
Right. And Peter Slash, it's so strange to me. They are the most non-confrontational, soft-spoken people that I know, and they make videos that are fact-filled. Their videos are 100% sourced. They have very meticulous references where you can just go, okay, it shows one in the corner. You go to one, you read that article, and you can tell that what he said is true, or what Peter Slash Ethel said is true. And like he opines all the time about, I said this. Is this exactly what this point said in this article? And you'll read it and you'll say, yes, you got it right. Are you sure? I feel like maybe if I'd said it this way. And there's times where he'll take down a video because of one or two words that he didn't feel were best placed, and then re-upload it fixed.
I've seen that. You should have seen really early on that seemed to be a thing. I'd go back to look at one of the videos, and the early ones were very boring, but they were like so perfectly written.
Oh yeah. Peter Slash Ethel has a work ethic like none other when it comes to research. And that's the thing is, they couldn't beat him on the facts. And so instead they turned those videos into what they called drama machines. And they started attacking them as if Essence of Thought was trying to go out of their way to cause some kind of rift. Well, surprise people, the rift has always existed. When you have people that are out there just to get famous, and then you have people out there that actually want to help people, you're going to have a rift.
Yeah, I was, yeah, I was sub to Rationality Rules, but I was only listening, so I didn't see some of the on-screen stuff that would have turned me off early on.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, but calling Peter drama, essence of drama, is the stupidest thing I have ever seen. I've even looked at the tweets. I've even looked at the tweets and gone, what are they on about?
Oh, yeah. And then they laugh and joke on Twitter about putting something together with Joe Rogan. After claiming that, oh, I admit that the Joe Rogan clips were transphobic. I'm sorry I did that. But here, let me show them again in the video where I said I'm sorry that I used it. Then they go on to laugh and joke about trying to put something together with Joe Rogan. It's just disgusting. Like that, Rationality Rules has no integrity whatsoever. I think they're just a disgusting person, and they wanted to get some of their disgusting views out. And they're reaping the benefits because their channel's doing just fine. They're growing. And most of the people in the atheist community are still going to suck off that teat. They're not going.
It's always hard to figure out who is a bad actor and who isn't.
Yeah.
It's while defense service sometimes, most of the time, 87% of the time. But I won't defend Holy Kool-Aid. Thomas Westbrook, right?
Yeah.
Well, I don't.
The same arguments have been thrown at me. People will call me a drama maker, that I've gone out of my way to cause fights. And yet I've had tons of videos put out about me over the last several months. I've went on my merry way and made videos on my own. I blocked a lot of people because I was just sick of it. I've now unblocked everyone. I just decided, you know what? I'll just unblock everyone and we'll go from there. But yeah.
I'm sure lots of people have blocked me here and there, but I never block anyone. It's a fault of mine. There are people I really should.
Oh, I don't.
I'll report somebody once in a while, but they have to do something really egregious.
Yeah. Generally, the reason why I'll block someone is if they are questioning, aside from the bots that I've used, which I'm not using the bot anymore. I'll block someone if they've questioned my ethics or my integrity. Because I am autistic. I try my best to speak the truth. I do not like lying because I hate the feeling. Like as a kid, even I hated the feeling of telling a lie.
Yes.
And so that's one thing that really ticks me off, is when someone questions something at the core of me. Or I will block someone if they try to call me or one of my friends trenders.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
You just said the trigger word.
Oh, I know. It's such a bullshit. It's just as bullshit as the argument that they're going to take over sports. That they're so everything out there. There's probably one, maybe two people that fits this term, but there are not people lining up to go, you know what? You know the way I'm going to be famous? I'm going to be trans. It's just no. No.
Well, I think if Shu did it, it might work.
It might. I mean, if they went straight chud and just
no particular offense to Shu. Well, lots of offense to Shu, but
yeah.
That's me causing drama, and that is actually something I'm trying to avoid. Yeah. I'll move on. I'm sorry. I don't know. Where do you think the real question is? Where do we move forward? Or is it going to wind up being now 4 separate groups? There's the Sargon bearing that area. There's going to be the super rationals over here, and then us freaks over here.
So I think there's already 3 groups, and the groups that I label them as is there's the skeptic TM, which is your Sargons and your armored skeptics, shoes and people along those lines. And then you have what I call the high skeptics, which are the uber rationalists that came about after the skeptic TMs moved out of the atheist community, that came in and we're just going to throw fallacy cards left and right and act like that makes us smart in some way. And then you have the greater secular humanist group, community, whatever you call it. There are thousands of content creators who are secular humanists out here that do it on their own or in small groups. Left tube is another term that is out there. There's also bread tube. But like for me, I'm my own thing. Now, Essence of Thought is putting together a group for marginalized content creators to work together, to collab, to get word of mouth out for their channels, and try to build up a more secular humanist small content creator community.
I know he mentioned, or they mentioned trying to do that. I didn't know that was it. Is it a go, or is it they're still on the planning stage?
Right now it's still planning. I think it's pretty much a go. I think it's probably a couple of weeks to a month away. I think he's putting a lot of time and energy into working out how this would work. And because, I mean, there's so many different directions. Like being a secular humanist, you don't have to do the atheist response videos. You could be a gamer and be a secular humanist, and just enjoy that, or makeup channels or things along those lines. As long as you're not promoting harm towards people, and promoting secular humanism, it would be included in that. So I'm excited to see what they come up with.
Well, I'm not entirely sure I'd be so good for a makeup channel. I know how to do the makeup you do. I don't actually know how to do the makeup that makes people say ma'am on the streets.
Well, this is the makeup that I do because I am horrified of putting a mascara brush or an eyeliner pencil, or I always say, I keep saying on my channel that I'm going to get makeup and I'm going to try doing makeup. And every time I do, I look at these things and they just look like needles that you put near your eyes. And I'm like, no, I can't do it. No.
It'll be fine. Don't call me. I will calm you down. Do not sit on the ledge while you do it. That's all.
I'm sure one day I will bust through and do it, but right now I love the face paint. I like what I can do with it, and like sometimes it can be happy, sometimes it can be angry, and also, like it's been said in the chat, I block face recognition software, so the government can't track me.
There you go. The only time it scares me is the Juggalo, and then I realize I know how magnets work, so I'm good.
I did that. What was funny, I did that specifically for X from Utah Outcast because they've asked me to do it several times, and I did it the week they were on vacation and off somewhere. They have not seen it at all. Like I'm not a fan of ICP. I did it specifically for a friend, and then they were gone. So,
That's the best way to do it.
oh yeah.
I'm absolutely certain I could still do Frankenfurter makeup with my eyes closed.
Oh, that's a good one. That's one that I might do at some point. I love that movie. I love the everything Rocky Horror Picture.
I gotta say, I got one thing I didn't put in my trans origin story video. I don't think was Rocky Horror saved my life when I was a teen. My God, it's the only place I got to be myself, really, ever. And being trans wasn't a thing, and by the time, and then years rolled by, and it seemed like it passed me by, and I was 50. My kid and I have the same birthday, and my kid came out apparently just before my birthday, our birthday, and my 53rd, his 16th. And I didn't realize it because I kind of knew my kid was coming out anyway. So I just once it hit, I didn't even notice. I was oh yeah, oh all right, Cyrus, cool. All right, we're good. But don't you have questions? I said no. I figured this out when you were 11. But the kid came out first, and then I came out in July for strange reasons. But yeah, Rocky Horror was huge to me. 151 times.
Wow.
And
That's awesome.
It's so sorry. You just sort of, there's certain things that'll trigger me into reverie or hi, I'm going to just wander off into this corner for a second. And then I'm the one who brought up Rocky Horror. Oh,
yeah, you brought up Frankenfurter, but that's
the makeup, right?
Yes. No, so when I came out as trans, as non-binary, like one of the questions was, well, what are you going to do? Like, how are you going to, are the things going to change? And like the thing is, when you figure it out, like you don't know that right away. Like you're just like, okay, I know what I am now. That doesn't mean anything else yet. Like it doesn't solve anything. So like the first thing I did was I got rid of the beard, and then I hated the look of my face, just naked, just there. And so I was like, I have to do something. And so I decided to start doing the face paint, and really enjoyed doing it. The first time was just a fun thing. I did it for some friends, for what was it? Something Pride. I can't remember what it was, early in the year, in February, and I did it, and then I was like, you know what, I kind of like that. So I went out and got some more face paint and all kinds of stuff and had fun with it.
It does give you a unique look. I mean, I've seen you barefaced and you look just beautiful. So I
well, thank
don't
you.
know why you worry about that, but but it does give you a unique look and a unique corner to go with. I know only one other person who does face paint on YouTube, and his is a whole different reason.
Yeah, I know a couple, and they're kind of on the opposite side of the aisle as me, and because I know TJ Kirk did some face paint at one point.
You know?
And then there's I can't ever remember this person's name, but like Magog or so, they pretend they're a wizard in their videos.
That one was fun.
I mean, he had some fun videos, but like all of his takes on Twitter are just horrible. Like, like his the takes that he does on, they're just bad. I don't know. Like, they were one of the first content creators that I found and was like, this is kind of cool. And then I saw them on Twitter and like, oh, they're fucking awful.
I'm actually kind of sorry I know that now.
Yeah. Just really super right wing. It's just,
There's like a few bits of hope, but like I said, the first person I saw converted to the dark side is now one of the premium left tube people around, and I'm really happy to see that, and I figure it gives hope to everybody.
Yeah.
You know, maybe even Sargon will have that final fish will hit his face, and he will he will know the error of his ways.
Needs to be a fish covered in glitter, and then just toss that, and as it hits his face and the glitter coats him, he'll have no choice but to go left-wing bread tube, and he'll do it really badly and end up just failing at it, but it'll be okay.
We need to make glitterfish a thing now. I'm sorry.
Yes, glitterfish.
It's just stuck in my head, and my dreams are going to be interesting tonight. Sure. Dream.
The bigger the fish, the more glitter you can, and you can fill the fish with glitter so that when it hits, it just kind of sprays up or wherever direction the mouth is, and just you might take out a whole group of
groupers.
Yes.
Well, the best thing about being a flounder is things are always looking up.
Yeah.
All right. I have been looking forward to this for a while. It was either you or Steve for my first one, but I said right now Maddie is the person who I really want to talk to.
Awesome.
So,
well, like I said, I was I'm honored that this is your first one, and I'm here for it. So thank you for having me on.
Oh, absolutely. And I never say the magic words at the end. Like, subscribe, hit the bell.
Yeah, hit the bell that does something. We don't know quite what it does yet, but it's supposed to do something. YouTube has assured us that it does something.
Well, I tend to see the people that I bell more than I see the other people, so it's close.
Yeah.
And go to Objectively Subjective, which is a fantastic channel which I watch frequently, and apparently we're going to get some more of the Godless Iowan stuff back, thankfully, because I did not see all of that when it happened.
Some of the stuff will be coming over. There's a few response videos that I've decided that I'm going to port over. One is another PragerU video that just goes really well with my new channel. And then there's a couple others that I might bring over.
Well, PragerU is always is a good thing. As soon as I get a little more proficient with editing, I will probably start doing some of those, just because PragerU is great to practice on because they're so freaking easy.
They are. They're so bad. But they seem so professional, but all they do is just spout bullshit. Just everything, every word is just saturated in garbage on those videos.
Well, thankfully not on yours.
Yeah.
I suppose I will be seeing you on the Facebook and more on the. Well, at some point I'm coming over to your place, but we haven't worked that out yet.
Yep. Once I
we
start
talked-
up interviews again after the summer gets over, then I'll schedule you for an interview.
All right. Although I think I've talked about most of this stuff. I have nothing left to say. I guess I'm shutting down now. My channel's over. Forget it. I'm done. No, as long as there are people out there trying to stop trans people and trying to stop atheists, I will be there wearing a tin star, but you'll have to find it.
Yes.
Yes. I don't know what that meant, even a little. I tried to make a joke and it completely failed. This is not a good way to end the broadcast. Say something funny, please.
Something funny, please.
There you go. Thank you so much, Maddie. One more time, and objectively subjective. And say hi to Mrs. Snarky. And I will. Well, I'll talk to you for a minute in the after show, but for the live broadcast, this will be it. Thank you again. Bye.
Bye.
Okay.